Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. I've wanted to check out one of these watches ever since I first heard about their story, and the fact that this design inspired so many iconic watches, the most popular being the Rolex Explorer-II. And I'm glad to finally get one of these Glycine GMTs in hand, and even more glad that I was able to get this Glycine Airman No. GMT GL0164 Limited Edition, since it very closely resembles the Airman from between 1953 to 1960. This is a larger diameter recreation that caters to more modern preferences at 40mm. However, there were 36mm versions too. I won't go into the history of these watches since this has been covered multiple times and in excellent detail by folks like the Urban Gentry Channel. This GL0164 was a limited release of 1000 units and had a retail price of 2035 Swiss francs, but currently pops up on the pre-owned market for between 750 and 1000 US dollars. Let's check it out. I measured the case to be 39.75 millimeters in diameter, 49.25 millimeters from lug to lug, and 12 millimeters tall. The case is made of stainless steel and has a traditional and vintage design. They even managed to maintain a sleek overall case profile since nearly 3 millimeters of that 12 is the domed plexiglass. The polished mid-case transitions into a pair of long lugs that flare out and dramatically curve down towards the wrist. The top surfaces are brushed, the lug width is 21 millimeters, and the lugs are not drilled through. There is a 24-hour GMT bezel that has a brushed top surface and is filled with black paint for the markers, with a coin edge bezel that is easy to grip and operate. The bezel is fixed in place by a 5.25mm bezel lock crown located at the 4 o'clock position and is bidirectional when unlocked. This single-piece steel GMT bezel is an iconic design, now mostly associated with the Rolex Explorer-II, but Glycine was the first to bring this to market. The domed plexiglass is another nod to the heritage design, and in a watch like this, I really don't mind it. There is a 4.75mm push-pull crown at the 3 o'clock position that is easy to grip and operate, and there isn't any crown or stem wobble here. Flipping it over, you have a flat screw-down case back with a few specs engraved onto it. This watch is only rated for 10 meters of water resistance, so I wouldn't be too daring with this one. The dial is beautiful and does a fantastic job of echoing the vintage design theme of this watch. The dial is in an aged white color or a cream color with all printed and painted elements. The outermost layer is the 24-hour Arabic numeral track that is a bit busy but is easy to read and follow with the GMT hand. The printing quality is great and everything is very tidy. You then have an inner ring of minute markers and 12-hour markers. The hour markers have rectangles at the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock and circles for the rest. They're filled with Lume, which has a passive light green color. There is a date window at the 3 o'clock position with a white date wheel and red text. I tend to prefer color matched date wheels at the 6 o'clock position, but this one totally works at recreating the charm of the original design. You just have Glycine Airman printed below the 12 o'clock without the logo, which is probably what I love most about this entire dial, and automatic above the 6 o'clock position. The handset is all brushed stainless steel with the hour, minute and seconds hands being loomed. There is a rectangular GMT hand that is easily identifiable. I like all the proportions and the hands are functional. They don't attract too much attention and they're well finished. So overall, I think this dial is fantastic and is an excellent recreation of the vintage style. Great work here. Given the somewhat lightly printed dial markers, I didn't expect great lume from this watch, but it's surprisingly good. All the hour markers are loomed, but they do fade out a bit quickly. The hour, minute and seconds hands are well loomed though. They glow bright and hold their charge reasonably well. The GMT hand is not loomed and neither is the back pointed section of the hour hand, but I think that's fine. I compared it with the Tutema M27Cs, a more serious diving tool watch, and it seems to hold up well, all things considered. On my Timegrapher, I measured roughly -5 seconds per day in average in the dial up position and -10 seconds per day on average in the crown up position. Decent numbers for a pre-owned watch, so no complaints there. The GL293 or the ETA 2893 should be easy to regulate though. I'm most impressed with the manual winding experience on this movement as it feels buttery smooth and better than any other movements you'd get in this price range. The 39.75mm diameter, 49.25mm lug-to-lug width were great on my 6.5-inch wrist. I was a bit worried about the straightish lugs, but the watch sits low on the wrist thanks to the 12mm height, and the overall wrist presence is excellent. The watch ships with a leather strap that is adequate and comfortable with a signed buckle. Overall, I'm a fan of how this watch looks and wears. So to wrap this up, I'm really impressed with this watch, and I think it's another one of those watches that I wish I'd experienced much sooner. I didn't expect too much in the way of build quality and finishing, since it is tied to the parent brand Invicta, but I think that was just my ignorance. There's plenty of value here by means of design heritage, functionality, build quality, finishing, and design. If you're looking for an automatic GMT watch in the sub $1,000 price range and you're not too worried about water resistance, this is possibly one of my top choices apart from the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander GMT. As always, thanks for watching and don't forget to read my other reviews in the link below.